Hello, I'm Dr. Diane Webster, and I'm going to tell you a short story based in Brisbane in 1992. This story is based on true events. Losing a son, Brisbane, November 1992. I awaken from deep sleep. I hear his cry. 2 a.m. on the bedside clock. I'm on my feet in a flash and in his room to lift him gently out of his cot. What a beautiful baby boy I have, little Patrick, only 6 months old, perfect in every way. I hold him and he settles down. He must be having pains again. I go through my checklist of what could be upsetting him. He's been fed. He had a nappy change less than an hour ago, and there's no smell, so it's not a poo. Disposable nappies these days are so good, they absorb the wee and keep the nappy dry right next to his body, so it couldn't be that. It must be a pain. I gently rub his tummy as I walk around the lounge room, holding him and rocking him. He burps. That's good, I'm thinking. Maybe he'll go back to sleep now. We walk around the lounge room in the dark together for about 20 minutes. His eyelids are starting to close now. After another 20 minutes of walking and rocking, he seems to be asleep. I gently take him back to his bedroom and start ever so slowly to lower him into his cot. Just as his little body is about to make contact with the sheet, his eyes spring open and he looks me directly in the eyes, as if to say, "I'm still awake. Don't put me down yet. I need you to keep holding me." I cuddle him back up again against my chest, and I suddenly feel the heat coming from his body. How could I have missed it? I'm a doctor. He's got a high temperature. Together we patter softly into the kitchen to get the Panadol. The problem with this is Patrick will not take any oral liquid medication. I've tried before several times. It just upsets him, and he just spits it out. Lucky we are stocked up on pediatric paracetamol suppositories in the kitchen medicine cabinet, so I have to get it into him somehow. Nappy change coming up next. It's 3 a.m. now, and the suppository has been given. But now he's coughing. He seems to have an upper respiratory infection with a runny nose along with it. The remaining hours of the night are spent holding him, rocking him, and walking around the lounge room with him in my arms. He likes the gentle movement. He seems to be peaceful as long as I'm holding him, but every time I try to put him down in his cot, his eyes spring open, and his eyes are telling me there's no way he's sleeping in that cot tonight. He needs to be held. I resign myself to my fate and try not to think about the morning's operating list I'll be doing at St Jude's Hospital starting at 8 a.m, let alone the afternoon appointment with my anaesthetist and his family starting at 2 p.m. As I'm walking around slowly in large oval circles in the lounge holding Patrick, I hatch my plan for the day ahead, and I seem to catch some sleep standing up and walking. Is that even possible? Next morning, 7:15 a.m, I enter St Jude's Private Hospital, Brisbane, with Patrick in my arms and head for the children's ward. I greet the nurse in charge of the ward and introduce myself confidently. "Hi, I'm Dr. Alice Werner, a consultant ophthalmologist at the hospital. This morning I have a list of cataract surgeries scheduled in Theatre 5 starting at 8 a.m. My son, Patrick, has an upper respiratory tract infection, and I'd like you to admit him to the hospital under me and start him on amoxicillin. I'll be back to pick him up after I finish the list at 12:30, and we can discharge him home with me then." The charge nurse just stood there with her mouth slightly open and looked at me in disbelief. She and I both knew this was definitely not hospital policy, but I was desperate. This plan had to work. I didn't have a plan B. I gently transferred my darling 6-month-old baby into her arms, turned without delay, and left the ward. The morning's operating went smoothly. I didn't hear a word from the pediatric ward. As they say, no news is good news, and I even had 10 minutes break to have a cup of tea in the tea room. I was finished at 12:15 p.m. and proceeded directly back to the children's ward to collect my most precious family jewel. I entered the ward and all was quiet. That's a good sign, I thought. No babies crying. I went past 2 cots and then found Patrick, sound asleep in cot 3. The nurse was quickly at my side. I introduced myself and told her, "I'd like to discharge Patrick now and take him home. Can you show me the paperwork to sign and then we'll be out of your hair?" Within 15 minutes, I was back in the car with Patrick in the baby capsule and we were on our way to our next appointment. I was still feeling good. I was on the post-operating adrenaline high. Usually took about 45 minutes for that to wear off, and then I knew I would be feeling terribly tired. The travel time to the funeral was about 20 minutes out in Paddington. It was a beautiful sunny November day with the jacarandas in full bloom. I approached the traditional large Catholic church and parked the car. There was already a mass congregation of people with their young families outside the church. The black hearse had arrived with the tailgate open to reveal a child-sized coffin. They had started to progress in now, so I waited at the car with Patrick in my arms. I didn't really know anyone else there, apart from the boy's father, Jim Baker, my regular anaesthetist, who had just lost his 13-year-old son, Gabriel, to leukemia. I spotted Jim and his wife, Robin, from a distance. They both looked extremely pale and drawn. Patrick and I were one of the last people to enter the church. I stood in the last pew at the aisle with Patrick in my arms just in case he started to cry and I would need to take him outside. Patrick felt quite weighty in my arms now, and I was starting to feel tired with the heavy, humid air inside the church descending on me. As the service went on, I thought how lucky I was to still have my son, my baby, tired as we both were, but relatively healthy. Jim and Robin were not so lucky. Yes, they did have other older children, 3 in fact, but Gabriel was their baby, their youngest child, and now he was gone, taken from them when he was only a man-child, 13 years of age, on the brink of adolescence, on the brink of what should have been the rest of his life. Baby Patrick was incredibly well behaved. He was wide awake during the service, but did not utter a sound. He seemed to respond to the reverence of the whole situation, and he seemed totally at peace while being held in my arms. Surprisingly, Jim Baker was back at work the following Monday as usual. He was subdued, but kept up appearances, with being attentive to the patients and very caring towards everyone except himself. I asked him if he wanted to take some time off, but he said no. "I need to take my mind off it," he said, "and it's best at the moment if Robin and I don't spend too much time together." She still blames me, silently. I can see it in her eyes. Why didn't I pick it up earlier? I'm a doctor. I just thought he was faking his aches and pains to get out of doing his homework. Would it have made any difference anyway? It wasn't until 18 months later that Jim had his nervous breakdown. That's all. Thanks for listening. My YouTube channel is at Dr. Diane Leslie Webster and TikTok and Instagram at Diane Leslie Webster. I've got a new book out called The Art of Living a Good Life, available from Amazon. Until next time, enjoy.